Well, good evening all. Just another clear day here in this part of Texas. The only thing I saw in the sky, period, was last night about 4:30 in the morning. Nothing really big, but saw this plane flying over. And, it's kind of weird seeing that being out in the rural part of Texas. But I checked FlightAware, and there was a plane coming up all the way from Brazil. And there it is, 300 people sailing overhead, probably waking up out of a long nap. I don't know, I find that stuff really fascinating. Yeah, there it goes. Anyway, that's about all I got to show you. No time lapse or anything like that, but let's start out with the big picture, and we want to do this before we get into analyzing the models. And after I do this, we'll go a little bit into the hurricane update. So what you're looking at right now is thickness, these red lines, and as I've mentioned in previous broadcasts, that's like a average temperature in the lowest 5 kilometers of the atmosphere. And we like to look at the warm side of the gradient to find our fronts. So right here in this area, that would be the location of a front. And then further out west, it does get a little bit more tricky, but I'm probably going to place a front, something like that, because here we're ahead of most of the intense gradients. And out here I only find maybe one or two. So to me that's probably, yeah, and the other thing is it falls in a pressure trough. So if you look at the black lines, there's that little trough feature right there. So we want to have that front kind of fall in to that trough as much as possible. Now the rest of the front all the way up to Manitoba, probably a warm front like this. This here would be a cold front. And then further up north, this would be an occluded front. There we have part of the warm sector being lofted up to the mid-levels. And then we've been watching this close low around Lake Ontario. That's been drifting the past 5 days or so. And you can see most of the temperature gradients are out ahead of it. So this is kind of cut off from the thermal, the powerhouse that fuels these things, the baroclinicity. That's off to the south there. So this thing is in the process of dissipating very slowly. So as you can see, most of the weather action is out west. And here's a quick look at the imagery. I don't know if you can see that. This is the west coast, and there's that next system working on shore. Probably a warm front kind of like that. So back behind it, unstable air. A lot of towering cumulus out in the waters. And then out ahead of it, just warm, gusty conditions. And we like to look at details, so let's zoom in on the back side of this front. And here we find a lot of towering cumulus clouds. This isn't the best sector. I can switch over to the Aqua satellite. Nope, even that's not very good. Let me switch over to Suomi. But yeah, inland, where we have the onshore flow, and it starts picking up some of the warm temperatures inland, that kind of destabilizes the lower level parcels, and that really gets the towering cumulus going. So a little bit of showery activity inland north of the San Francisco area. So that's very good for those redwoods there. Then down in the Gulf, Hurricane Matthew, of course, still running Category 4 today. Maximum sustained winds there, 125 knots, so that's pretty stout there. Pressure has come up a little bit to 945 millibars. So this is not like in the top 40 or top 50 of storms, but it's still pretty good ways up there. The satellite picture, that's the tell-all of what's happening right now. This is an animation of the past 2 hours. And we like to look at the movement of this eye. Now, if I had more time, I would have gone back and loaded up maybe the past 6 to 12 hours to kind of get a history of the track. But we're seeing kind of a general movement like that, and at the very last frame, it shifts from a west to a northwest movement. And continuing to develop a lot of cold towers here, so this is all continuing to contribute to the storm intensity right there. This here is the eye wall, so that's the most intense part of the storm, and what you're seeing here is the spiral bands coming in like that, the very colder tops. The majority of this is all cirrus, so the odds are maybe 50% that if you get under that, all you'll have is kind of like a breeze and maybe some high overcast and not much going on. You really have to be under these colder towers to really see any rainy weather, and you have to be close to the system to really feel the tropical storm winds. Here's a quick look at the hurricane from earlier today. This is, again, the Polar Orbiter satellite. And you can see not a very distinct eye there. The eye is right there. And it's covered mostly by a cirrus overcast. So we're not really seeing a very carved out center devoid of high and mid cloud like we do with a lot of the Category 5 storms. So that's probably one way you can tell that the storm is not quite up there as far as intensity. But still, I can definitely make it out there I can basically make out the eye wall right there. Here's the Jamaica radar, starting to come in a range of that thing. And you can see one outer spiral band, and the center of the circulation would be way out there. So as we get closer, probably by tomorrow night, we should start seeing this on the Jamaica radar and on the Guantanamo ARSR-4 FAA radar. So that'll give us something to look at there. So what are we looking at for a movement on that hurricane? That has definitely been in the air. And looking at the hurricane forecast model deterministic performance, it appears that the ECMWF and UK Met model are starting to become a little bit more accurate than the North American models. So it's falling into line with that recurvature to the east instead of the westward track we had earlier, and even the GFDL model is pulling that thing further east. So there you can see the split between Europe and the US. American models going way out here, and let's see, I don't have a European model, but they were, I don't even have the UK Met here, but anyway, that's the spread of the models right there. Coamps and the WRF going way out to the east, or I should say the Hurricane WRF. And then we have the GFS going the furthest west, and GFDL model from the Navy, kind of a middle solution. And then this is the official Hurricane Center track. So we follow that all the way to the south, and pretty good clustering of those tracks over the eastern Bahamas there. But the movement on this storm is very slow. So we do have a little bit of a margin for error. And then it looks like probably by tomorrow when we do this webcast, the storm should be about right here. Should be picking that up on the Kingston radar. And then the next day on Tuesday, let's see, do I have that right? Let me check that. I don't want to make assumptions here. 10-4-12Z, okay, that's going to be, let's see here. It's going to be Tuesday morning. So let me pin that down for you here. Yeah, that looks to be about where it's going to be, just off the coast of Haiti there. 36 hours, 10-4-6Z. Yeah, there's the 0Z. That's going to be where the storm is for tomorrow right there. And then the next evening, tomorrow evening, around dawn, looks like it's going to be coming within range of that Guantanamo radar. Then when you join here on Tuesday night, we're going to be seeing that storm right in this area. If we allow for a margin of error, you might want to say maybe in that zone right there. And what we're really watching over the next week is this thing approaching the Carolina coast. There's a lot of uncertainty in the model, so, at that time frame. So we could see landfall certainly anywhere from Charleston up to the Outer Banks, or we could see it just continue out into the Atlantic. So a couple different possibilities here. GFS, though, is kind of grazing the coast. Then it kind of follows the Gulf Stream and then makes landfall somewhere in Nova Scotia. Okay, yeah, I did get one question there in chat, whether the hurricane's going to impact the U.S. What I mentioned there pretty much covers that. What there is, like I said, there's a chance it could come on shore. I'm going to call that maybe 20 to 30%. 70% it's going to continue out this way, maybe graze Cape Cod. And then we could see it come onto the Maine coast. And it will be pretty deep when it comes up in this area. It will lose a lot of the hurricane force winds and kind of be a very broad circulation. But Maine may see the strongest effects. There's probably some gusty winds, maybe 40, 50 miles an hour, that kind of thing. So let's go into our forecast, and instead of showing you precipitable water, I'm going to show you thickness, because it's getting into that season where we want to look at that. So there you go. This is the GFS forecast. I've shown you that the western U.S. front is lying something like this. And there we've got a little bit of the cooling coming into the eastern U.S. right there. That's the cold anticyclone moving into that region. So the frontal system moves through the northern plains. You can see it move all the way up into Manitoba around midweek. And then we're going to see another front develop on the tail end in Kansas on Thursday. So there's going to be a chance of maybe some storms in that area, especially with the Gulf moisture streaming northward there. Then things get a little active for Texas on Friday. So here's Friday. Looks like we're going to have kind of a nighttime storm front sweeping through. This is Friday morning. Very strong front coming into Texas. The main low is going to be up in the Chicago area. And we might get a squall line with that maybe Thursday night. It's that time where that's definitely a possibility. And then a lot of the storm risk shifts into the Midwest for Friday and Saturday. So there's the front making its way eastward, and then we see Matthew grazing the Carolinas coast. And then something very interesting that happens with the start of winter. You see this 540 thickness line right here. 540 is used as a rule of thumb for finding winter precipitation, assuming there's enough lift and moisture. Now, before next weekend, look how far north it was. You see it maybe dipping into the North Dakota maybe. And then before that, right now, it's all the way up in Alberta. But you see it make a plunge southward, and then it really gets going behind this hurricane working its way up the coast. Look how it pulls down that 540 line all the way into New York and in New England. So we're going to see a pretty sharp cool down in the northeast U.S. This is going to be around October 10th, next weekend to maybe October 12th. So pretty good shot of cold air working in the backside, possibly some wintry precipitation in the New England area. And elsewhere around the U.S., we should just see it kind of cool and mild. We see a little bit of that shot of cool air make its way into the Midwest. A little bit of a warm-up for October 11th, and we are starting to get pretty far out there, but looks like maybe kind of a warm period coming up for mid-month. Okay, let's see. Is that all I have right here? I guess I'll show you one more thing here. This is the precipitable water, and you can see, you can use this to kind of find these surges of cool air working south. Now when this first front comes through around the end of next week, watch right here, you can see this area of brown and green plunge southward. So there it goes. So that's the first shot of cold air right there. And you can see it affects mostly the eastern U.S. And then we get another shot of that cool air right here after next weekend. So that's going to be probably around Wednesday or so. So actually looking at this, I think it probably will be on the cool side next week, because that is a pretty stout southward push there. So looks like we're going to be running temperatures below normal for at least a few weeks. So I hope you like fall, guys. It's I definitely do. I'm sick of this summer weather. Okay, anything in chat? Let's see here. Not much going on. Hey to Bexley, Mike, hi Lexi, hi Mark and Dwight and all you guys. I appreciate you watching. I will be back at the same time tomorrow, and we'll keep track on, keep tabs there on Matthew. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Maybe we could talk about them tomorrow. Okay, thanks. We'll see you tomorrow.